go.
Okay, good evening. Let's call the meeting to order. Could you do the roll call, please?
Commissioner Sean Cross.
Here.
Commissioner Rachel Lau-Smith.
Here.
Commissioner Adam Marl.
Here.
Commissioner Doug Neely.
Here.
Commissioner Rocky Smith.
Here.
Commissioner Frank O'Donnell.
Here.
And Chair Denise McGriff will be in a little bit late.
Okay. Next item is citizen comment. Is there anyone here for citizen comment? Seeing none, let's move on to our first discussion item, the third amendment to the purchase and sale agreement. Mr. Conkle?
Thank you. Evening, Commissioner. So tonight we'll be presenting the third amendment to the purchase and sale agreement proposal at 922 Main Street. I'll go ahead and turn it over to Mr. Graham to provide the details of the proposal.
Thank you, Mr. City Manager. Good evening, members of the Urban Renewal Commission. At the last meeting of the Urban Renewal Commission, I think it was June 26, 2021, the commission agreed to extend the PSA until October the 30th, 2021. Now, on May the 31st, 2017, Willamette Stone LLC proposed a purchase and sale agreement. The price agreed to by all parties was $110,000, and the developer agreed to provide $5,000 in earnest funds. On September 16, 2020, the developer proposed to remove the residential component in favor of constructing retail and office space due to the lack of a quiet zone. During the September 2020 meeting, the commission voted to extend the existing PSA until July 30th, 2021. On June 16, 2021, the developer proposed having residential only on the third floor. The remainder of the building would be reserved for office and or retail. Tonight we're looking at a third amendment to the existing agreement, whereby it is proposed that it's a build to suit for one tenant and one tenant only. The first floor would accommodate a brewery operation with a tasting room and a retail sales area. The second floor would be a restaurant, and the third floor, a rooftop garden. Now, in early 2021, staff became aware of an opportunity to submit a community project funding request to Congressman Schrader. The Oregon City Downtown Quiet Zone project fit the criteria and was identified as a good candidate by staff for a community project funding. Using the concept work completed in 2019, staff updated the cost estimate based on inflation and the need for ODOT to deliver a federally funded transportation project. The updated cost submitted in mid-April for the congressional funding request was $2.6 million. This included a federal funding request for $2 million and a local funding match for the city of $600,000 in order to have this quiet zone. In July 2021, Congressman Schrader announced that the Oregon City Quiet Zone project was prioritized in the Transportation, Housing, and Urban Renewal and Urban Development Bill. $2 million to Oregon City Quiet Zone and $600,000 local match. The Oregon City Quiet Zone is currently included in the package proposed in Congress, and the infrastructure bill is in the House, the U.S. House of Representatives, where it is there still today. So it is projected, based on estimates, that the estimated completion of the quiet zone, you're looking at at least 2025, 2026 for a quiet zone. And there are a lot of processes that have to be adhered to in order to put that in place. But so a quiet zone, we cannot expect a quiet zone anytime soon, based on everything that's going on, not only in Congress, but the other steps that are required to move this project forward. So therefore, staff recommends that the Urban Renewal Commission approve this request to proceed with this project with the contingent upon a $10,000 extra in earnest funding or earnest money, and also contingent on receiving a executed lease agreement with the proposed tenant. Are there any questions?
Questions? Commissioner O'Donnell.
With this proposal is quite straightforward. Recitation of the quiet zone. But there's no predication doing this project. Quiet zone has to happen. Right? They're not offering to property and a quiet zone occurs.
Not under the current proposal.
Correct.
Right.
Okay, so it's just a simple, this is the land that's owned by UR, this company would like to buy it, and this is what they'd like to put on it.
Exactly.
Okay, thank you.
My dear Commissioner Smith.
Can I remind this commission that the last two times this came to us, we all decided that we would wait on selling properties or negotiating with properties or talking about future uses of properties until we went through our urban renewal visioning session, which is only halfway done. That is crucial in trying to figure out what our vision is for the urban renewal district. We've had this conversations many, many times. In fact, I'm surprised this is on the agenda tonight. The quiet zone issue obviously was tied to the original issue, which was whether or not this building would have housing or would have housing on that lot. As I've stated many, many times before, that's why Urban Renewal purchased that lot, as did Urban Renewal purchase other lots in the downtown for the sole purpose of bringing in housing into the downtown. We've debated that back and forth. That's why it's so crucial that we go through the visioning process, complete that, and decide what our vision is. If our vision is the same that's always been, then we need to consider that. If the vision's different, then we can move forward. But until that happens, I think it's a huge mistake to move forward on any of these properties. I also don't think that waiting to 2025, 2026 is, I don't think waiting is a bad idea. We've waited decades for this property to be used in the way that we wanted it. And if it takes a couple more to get what we want, then I think it's worth it. The question is this what we want? And that's what the visioning process was for.
When did the Urban Renewal, could you remind me when the Urban Renewal Agency bought the property?
I didn't understand what you said.
When did the Urban Renewal Agency purchase the old Enterprise Courier lot?
Well, I don't have that information as to when. I don't know if the city manager knows, but I know that this, the PSA has been in existence since 2017.
I thought I heard Commissioner Smith said something about 10 years, but I guess I kind of have the opposite opinion. We've got a piece of property that's been sitting there for years that we purchased. I think we need to go through the visioning process as well, but I don't have an issue with proposals coming forward that was under the current vision of the previous commissions, and I think it's about the time that this property to be developed. I don't see why we'd want to hold off on it. I know there's been a lot of time taken on the part of the group making the proposal here in terms of putting forward various designs as this has been going forward. I'm sure this has been a costly process for them, and I don't see any point in waiting.
Yes, Commissioner Lyle-Smith, please.
Thank you. So for me, I tend to agree with Commissioner Neely. The proposed use is within zoning. I mean, it's not like this is a proposal that's outside of what is permitted within that area. And we're talking about the main downtown district. If we were talking about a property that were further down Main Street or something where there isn't as much clear development about the direction that it's going, or if we were talking about the north end properties around the landfill, I feel like it'd be a different conversation, but this is right in the heart of downtown, which is primarily a strip of restaurants and bars and, you know, that general activity. So I really like this proposal. I think it's a good proposal. For me, it doesn't have to have residential until we get the quiet zone. You know, I'm fine with moving forward without residential properties. And, you know, I look at Coasters Crossing, which is right next to the rail, and they have outdoor seating and everything, and they do just fine with the seating and people eating on their patio right next to the rail line. So I think it's a good example. And so the reason this is coming back is because the current contract is expiring, and therefore we need to make some decision on it, and they just happen to be coming back at the same time with a really good proposal. So I would generally support moving forward with this.
Morrow, please.
I tend to concur with Commissioner Smith. You know, what Commissioner Lyle-Smith was saying about the general area being with, you know, the bars and the restaurants, that's the reason I believe we want the housing, is because we want it to be mixed, and I don't have any problems with waiting.
At the top of the pops. Mr. Cross.
I really don't have anything to add that hasn't already been spoken.
said. Okay.
I'll jump back in when you're ready, after you. After you, Chair, I would like to jump back in.
Oh, please jump back in.
This is a straightforward proposal, not dependent on the quiet zone. This company has come back multiple times. This, as much as Commissioner Lyle-Smith said, is actually quite a good fit. It matches the downtown use. It will fill out an area that's essentially the entrance to our city. It's the very specifics of the project as it's laid out are very similar to the crossing. And I see it as a workable project with a group that has pursued this over a period of years and demonstrated their willingness to go forward. I know there's been some previous discussion about the need for housing downtown. I look at the unit cost of housing. If you're going to gain a apartment or two apartments, and you divide the cost of that over that is two, the cost of each of those is extremely high. If we're looking at housing, there are other options that'll give us a higher return on our unit cost. Again, I also agree with Commissioner Lyle-Smith that if this were in the north end, which is the subject of a more comprehensive development project, I might look at it differently, but this is essentially a standalone project on a lot that has stood vacant for a prolonged period of time that exists at the entrance of our city. So we have a ready, willing, and able buyer. I think there's no question in my mind I'm going to support it. At some point, you have to do something instead of do nothing for extended times. Thanks.
Okay, we have one person who's signed up to speak. Is there anybody else that wants to speak that has not filled out a slip? Okay, no, yes? Oh, before we go to public comment, are there any questions for the potential applicants?
I got it. It's not exactly a question. It appears to me that we might.
Do you want me to have them come up? You want me to have them come up? Have them come up?
No, it
Well, I
won't be
mean, I have a question,
necessary.
so I'd say come on up.
Okay, it won't be necessary.
you like me or not?
Yes, I do, because I have a question for you. He may not, but I do.
No, my comment is this, I assume we're going to lose one of our murals in the process.
I think that can come off, is what I recall. The Hobbs mural is affixed to the building, but can be taken off. So,
Oh, okay, great.
and before I get to you, Derek, hang on. Commissioner Smith.
So I'll add to my previous comments. I don't disagree that this is not an appropriate use. I think that it is an appropriate use, although I just think that we should have had a conversation about the vision of the urban renewal district prior to this. I think it's questionable why that visioning process didn't complete before this got put on the agenda. If the deadline for this was the 30th, we could have easily had the remaining urban renewal retreat meeting before that and flopped it, because I think we've been asked to maybe do the rest of the urban renewal retreat at the end of this month. That could have happened this week, or before the end of the month, and we could have then voted on this at the end of the month when we had an actual complete vision of what we want to see with the downtown. I think it's, I think we need to stop looking at individual lots only on their own merit and not thinking broadly through the entire community, which is the point that I've made numerous meetings. And maybe this is an appropriate use, but we could have had that conversation. We basically acknowledged as a commission that that's what we were going to do. The mayor acknowledged that in multiple meetings that we felt that we should, as a commission, do that. Multiple people in this commission also said that. So I feel like placing this at a step in that plan when we could have easily done that by the end of the month is kind of surprising to me. I also think it's interesting that these are people that are actually ready to go forward on this were people that last year did not think the quiet zone was a priority. And then, of course, when it wasn't a priority and we were told that this use would be maybe changed because of that, people then thought it was an important mission, so much so that we went forward to try to put pressure on the Congress to do something about it. I think that's unbelievable, actually. And so I think we need to get our vision together. I think we need to know what we're doing. And we could have done that. So I also then would say that if we move forward with this lot and we think that this is an appropriate use, which it very well could be, I would like to know exactly what teeth are there for making sure that it is exactly built for the exact use that we are being told and nothing else, and that it will stay that use. I know that we have, as a city, given funding to various projects in this city where we were told we're going to be used for certain uses, and they were never used for that. I can give you multiple examples of that, grants and various things that we have a city have granted that didn't follow through in what we wanted them to do. So it needs to be very clear that if we as agree that this use is appropriate for that lot and this commission wants to move forward in doing that, then it absolutely needs to be exactly the way that it's drawn up, exactly the way that it's being sold, and that building will not be used for anything else.
Okay. We'll have more opportunity. Thank you.
We'll see.
What?
We'll see.
Okay, I said thank you to you. And so even though I've repeated your name, you just say your name for the record, Derek.
Thank you very much. Derek Metzen, Green Box Architecture, 502 7th Street here in Oregon City. So we appreciate you having us here this evening to talk about the project. We're excited about it. We love Oregon City. We love downtown. This is a site that we've had our eye on for a long time now, and we're excited that we can carry the conversation into having a commercial tenant there. This tenant came to us after we started the conversation a few months back about could we change the use from residential to commercial. And so that's when this conversation started. And, it's interesting that it's taken 11 years to come back full circle to a study that was done, funded by Metro, the City of Oregon City, and Clackamas County. And our dear friend here was on the commission at that time, both city and Renewal. Doug was also on the commission when you all commissioned that study, and looking at 12th and Main and 10th and Main and a few other properties, but specifically those two, they identified that 12th and Main was an appropriate use for multifamily housing. And I understand that there's been a couple offers put on that recently that I hope are considered someday. But 10th and Main, when that study looked through the financial viability of that site, they said residential just doesn't work. And the things that have changed since that time is the rents that they projected are currently in place, but the cost both of SDC and construction costs have doubled since then. So it's equally difficult from a financial standpoint. And then on top of that, the quiet zone, it just doesn't meet some of the criteria that is required for housing by HUD. That noise is an environmental factor that unfortunately we can't mitigate without that quiet zone. So I thank you for considering this project. Certainly we want something that's going to be interactive on that corner, opens it up, is lively. We pushed the retail and bar component towards Main Street so that you could see people coming in and out, and that would be full of activity. If you can vision OC Brewing, for instance, they have the tanks kind of put on the side, but they roll up those doors on the side and you can see what's going on. It's a part of the business. If you go up to Northwest or in the industrial areas in Portland, you can see the brewery tanks that are going on. There's activity going on there. It speaks to what's going on inside the building. And so that's what we see as a part of the space. We want to open the building to the public. And we placed windows on the north side of the building along 10th Street so that as it's not frequently accessed by pedestrians, because you've got that long, tall hill on the other side of the block, it is trafficked by a lot of cars. And so we were trying to appeal towards pedestrians along Main Street, cars along 10th Street. And we feel it's a proposal that hits a lot of the items that people have been asking about for a long time. A rooftop deck so we can get up and enjoy the views and the atmosphere of Main Street. We see that when the downtown is blocked off, it comes all the way up to 10th Street. So having a building that would participate in those open public gatherings, those are the kinds of things we're excited about here. So certainly I'll take questions if you have any, but.
I'm just wondering if you would like to, you've answered, I think, several of the questions that Commissioner Smith posed and his concerns about, is this what we're, getting? And I understand what he was talking about from some previous proposals, but I don't feel that this is that proposal. So you said you have a potential tenant, so this would sort of be build to suit, so to speak, for that use?
That is intentional, yes.
Okay.
So that tenant came to us. We developed this plan with the idea of suiting that tenant. We don't have a lease in hand. We know that they have taken a look at other buildings in West Lynn because we initially had a conversation about, okay, we want to get in before the contract expires. We had something set for last month. It got pushed over to this month, and all of a sudden folks get scared, right? It's been pushed off a lot of times. Is this going to go through? We're asking a business that's been forced to close, a business type, for the past 2 years, and to say, well, we want you to be here. Well, they want to be open. So, yeah.
Okay.
I'm not going to tell you.
No, I know that.
This tenant is a sure thing.
Yeah, no, I
But this
wasn't.
is what we're striving.
Yeah, I wasn't asking that. I was
Yeah.
basically, you said that the tenant came to you, so that's good. As you know, one of the things that I have been not concerned, but that I'm interested in is, since I also sit as a city representative on the DOCA board, that this building's facade be very compatible with the existing pattern that we see downtown. It can be different, but fit in. And obviously, as you said, it's going to sit on that corner. So to me, it's a 100% corner. It's a corner that has a lot of pizzazz. And I was thinking back to being on Amtrak, and as I came into Washington DC, there was a building with a rooftop thing, and everybody on the roof was waving at the Amtrak passengers on the way in, and it'll be going slow enough when it comes by there. So, that's just one of those little things that are there. So, okay, anybody have any questions for Mr. Manson?
2 questions for the applicant. One is straightforward. Commissioner Smith asked, is what we see what we're going to get, regardless of any future relationship with the proposed tenant?
This is a great question. We're going to pursue this type of tenant. This is our goal. This is a manufacturing component with a restaurant component. I mean, brewing beer is a manufacturing component. It's a higher wage job than just a restaurant. And we're never going to find a restaurant that's going to occupy 10,000 square feet. This building's proposed at 8,000 square feet. So we're looking at 8 to 10, depending on where we cut holes in the building. And then we have a rooftop deck as well. So we're looking at, as we proposed here, 2,500 square feet to 3,500 square feet of restaurant and the compatible use that would associate with that. That's what I can say.
If this gets approved tonight, that's our expectations. Approved on the basis of what you presented tonight. This is what we're going to build. Secondly, for those who might be watching from the home video audience, you have not asked for any urban renewal monies. Do you have any intention of asking for any urban renewal monies?
No, we haven't asked for any. That has not been on the table. I understand that is probably a contentious item. And so every time we've come here, we've just asked, can we buy the property?
Okay, and that's what you're asking tonight, with no future plans to make an ask.
We just want to buy the property.
Okay, that's all I need to hear. Thanks.
If we could move forward with the existing earnest money, that would be awesome. Certainly, that would be no cost to the city, and that would show, good faith that we can continue to work together. That would be our ask.
I apologize to everyone. I left the mic off during my speech. I hope you're able to hear it.
Well, we did, so.
I
Okay, all right, thank you so much.
Okay, thank you.
We now have one card here, or one slip for citizen comments, and go ahead and introduce yourself, although you probably don't need any introduction, but please do anyway.
Thank you, Madam Chair and Commissioners. My name is William Gifford. I live in Oregon City. I want to see housing on Main Street. Reasonable goal. I don't want to see housing on 10th and Main. That piece of property, by any definition of blight, answers the call to which you have been charged of reducing blight in our city. We need something attractive there that's going to bring people downtown. If one of the goals of DOCA is to increase traffic downtown, putting up housing is not going to do it. I think the idea of a vision is a good and noble intent, and I agree with that. I think the vision of reducing blight comes first and foremost. When we have a piece of property that's been in that condition for almost 2 decades, and we now have an opportunity to turn that around into something that would be of great benefit to downtown and the city in general, at the location that it's in, particularly as the one of the main entrances to our city. I hope that you don't let this opportunity get kicked down the road. I hope that you grab this one and make the best of it. So those are my comments.
Thank you very much. Do we have anybody else who would like to speak regarding this particular agenda item?
Madam Chair,
Yes, Mr. Graham.
there are 2 contingencies that staff recommends for this project, and that is one that an extra $10,000 of earnest funds be applied to the escrow, and number 2, that that we have an executed agreement with the proposed tenant, so that the building is used and built according to what was presented today. So those are the 2 contingencies.
Is there anything in there about the commission being able to take, we had in the past, commission taking a look at the proposed exterior elevations? As I stated before, I'm very interested in seeing that property be developed, but I'm also very cognizant of the development pattern that we have downtown. And if we're ever going to get to a point to where we are looking at a historic district, we want this to be new construction, but contributing to the district. And we had that in a previous sort of, as an advisory, we would talk to them about the design.
You can add that to the agreement. Of course, in general terms, but you can add that certainly to the agreement, but as one of the as one of the additional conditions. But as it's presented right now, you have two conditions to consider as part of the, it has to be part of the contract.
Does anybody have any objection to my request to add that?
I do not.
He's coming back up.
So I understand the ask, and I can't say I disagree with you from where you're coming from.
Right,
Let's
we've
look at
had
it
this
this way.
conversation many times.
Yes. There's a reason we didn't put exterior elevations
I know.
into the package. It is because we aren't to that point of design.
Exactly.
And to put a label on this committee right here, this committee is about economics. This committee is about development. The Planning Commission is about aesthetics. And we will have to go through the Planning Commission. We will have to go through design review processes in order to get to that stage. So I hope that gives you assurances that we will meet within the design standards that are within the city. It puts an extreme burden on everyone on this side of the table. If we are designing for a tenant, we're designing to meet city standards, and then we're also designing to a committee here. There can be conflicts there, and there can be things that are asked for at this level that don't meet those other standards. So I would appreciate it if we didn't go through that here, but as citizens of Oregon City and participants in the public process, you're welcome to come in, speak on behalf. Your comments will carry weight in that public process, which we will go through. We have to go through because we're going to go through a design review on this project. So I would ask that your participation in that matter would be in that form and not in this one.
Well, I understand where you're coming from, but I have to tell you, I have experience through the Portland Development Commission. They did say, they didn't dictate what it would look like, but they had some general categories and said, we're looking for this. So you know what my concerns are.
I do.
I want it to be compatible. You know, I don't want to see a black box sitting there, which is a previous design, because that's not compatible with downtown. The window openings are going to be appropriate for the use that you're talking about, but there still can be a rhythm on the front elevation. Again, I'm getting into more detail than I want to get into. We've had this conversation, so you know where I'm coming from.
I do.
So if you take that into consideration and tell me that that's part of your goal, then I won't request to add it. But again, I don't want this to be downtown and then, you know, what's this?
I can
We
tell
have a
you-
responsibility to our community, so.
I do. It would be
Okay.
uncomfortable to acquire your approval here and then design something that would be obviously incompatible and have you come back and say that at a design review hearing, for instance. So
Well, don't make me be
we're
an
aware and
unhappy
sensitive to
person.
those concerns. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, being no further comments,
I'd just make a general comment. He's done some great projects in our urban renewal district.
yes, but they're not in downtown.
Yeah.
That's my point. So I appreciate it. Mr. O'Donnell, and then we'll move to a vote. Mr. Smith is next.
So the applicant has indicated that he is going to build the very building that we're looking at in terms of design and function. It is going to be to serve the purposes indicated in his application. He's also indicated he does not have a tenant agreement in hand as of yet. So the question to the applicant would be whether or not you get that agreement, are you going to build the same building you portrayed tonight?
So the building must be on the portion of the site that we're talking about. It must go in that front 60 by 60 roughly. There's only one place we can enter and exit for parking. The parking is where it is. It's got to be there. We have limited area for trash and landscaping. So all of that's very clear. Our footprint and our massing, we can guarantee that, okay? The reason I can guarantee that is parking dictates and drives the site in so many ways. The building size is driven by the amount of parking. So this building that we've proposed requires 22.2 parking spaces, I believe. We're allowed a 50% reduction in the downtown area, so that gets us down to 11. You know, we might have room to squeeze in a few more square feet here or there where we show voids, so we have double height spaces. But in general, I mean, that's the building you're gonna get. I can tell you, there's probably a few doors in this building that don't meet ADA requirements based on clearances that we have. I can tell you that in one place or another, we may be missing a stair when we're dealing with the elevations between Main Street, which is 7 feet below the back portion. And I'd like to see that front space get 12 feet of head clearance and open space. And I don't know exactly how I'm going to do that yet. So those stairs on the interior, we need to design this. I mean, this takes months of thought and design and working through to get those details worked out. I don't know what I'm going to make the floor system out of. I'm pretty sure it's all going to be wood. It may be exposed like this, but we didn't get into that level of detail because, again, we are showing the thoughts that we've come to good conclusions about thus far, but I can't give you details of exactly how big that kitchen is, where the equipment's going to go inside of it. Is it going to be exactly that building that you have right there, and we're going to simply fill in holes? No, it will vary slightly, and I guarantee you that because there are thousands of pages of regulations in the Oregon Structural Specialty Code and other guidelines that we have to meet that we have not worked through yet to apply to this building. But the site layout, I can tell you it's going to be that. Where we have doors within 25 feet of the corner of the lot, I can tell you we're going to have them. We're going to have them there. The general layout where we're pushing those primary activities that are front facing, restaurant, bar, that sort of thing, towards Main Street. Yes, those are the things that we can commit to with absolute certainty. The portions back behind, how we're going to insert a bottling line or get equipment in and out, like, we just haven't thought through all those details, Frank. I'm just being explicit and frank because you asked me a straightforward question, and I'm telling you exactly the things that I don't know about. So I hope that's helpful. I know you'd like a yes or no, but I'm not a politician. It's just not that simple.
I'm not a politician either. The specifics of my question were straightforward.
Yeah.
Okay.
Regardless of whether you get the tenant you want or not, the building you represent you're going to build is going to be a bar on the first floor, a restaurant on the second, and a seating area in the third. That's what you're telling us you're going to build. We find that an attractive addition to our town.
Yes, that is what we're after.
That's what I wanted to hear. Okay, thanks.
All right. Mr. Smith, you're the last one, and then we're going to wrap it up for deliberation.
The last sentence, that is what we are after. That is what our intention is. Those aren't solid.
What you mean by the last sentence so that people know what you're talking about?
Last sentence that Mr. Madsen just answered with was that basically implying that's the intention of what they're going to do. But the truth is we don't know for a fact, and that's my concern. Remember, we had every intention when we built the Cove Apartments. In fact, we had more than intention. We also had a commitment that the entire first floor along Main Street would be retail and commercial. And as you know, we built them, and they're all empty, the lower floor on Main Street. So there was never, what are we going to, an intention isn't enough. And so my concern is that go forward, we build this building, a tenant isn't found, it's an empty building. So I think we've fell for this before. I would like to have a little bit more assurance than just we intend, and that's our plan.
If I may speak to that, the development group has to put in nearly $1 million before they're able to purchase the property.
You don't think the code?
We have to go all the way through entitlements and permitting.
You don't think
Think
that
about the expense of that. I mean, that is a lot of
Commissioner Smith, hang
effort
on.
and investment to find out then that you don't agree and that the property can't be purchased, I would go so far to say those are unreasonable expectations to put upon the purchaser. I hope you would agree with that. To give you that level of assurance that they're going to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars working towards a goal that we believe fits within this conversation right here and get to the end point and go, we just don't like it. I don't know who would pick up that mantle and walk with it.
All right, do we have a motion?
Well, I'll move to approve the third amendment to the existing purchase and sales agreement contingent upon producing a fully executed lease agreement from the potential tenant to be included as a $15,000. Is that right?
$10,000 extra, bringing the total
Okay,
to 50.
10,000.
Yes.
For a total of 50.
And there's the other contingency is that the third amendment to the existing purchase and sale agreement be done so upon an executed agreement from the proposed tenant. Okay.
Is there a second?
Second.
A second by Commissioner Cross. Is there any further discussion? Yes, thank you. Please, go right ahead.
So there is nothing in this purchase and sale agreement that states anything about that it's contingent upon a lease agreement. Are you saying you're not going to sign this agreement that we're not signing this agreement even if we approve it tonight? We're going to wait on the developer to show up with an agreement? Because there's nothing in this third amendment that says anything about any contingency on a tenant lease.
That could be added as a contingency of the vote to the agreement.
Okay, so you're saying that is going to be a term that's going to be added to this proposed agreement?
Yes.
Is it possible to add an additional term to the agreement? Because at the end of the day, after we talk all of this stuff and the developer says all of his stuff and we go back and forth, the contract agreement is what we have to go by, and it says restaurant, food, and beverage space. Is it possible to add a term that, or I guess maybe it's that if the proposal comes back, or if the developer comes back and doesn't build a restaurant, food, or beverage space, that we could terminate, that gives us grounds with that line that we could just terminate the purchase and sale agreement.
That's correct.
So I guess, is there a way to add a term that if they end up proposing something different or trying to permit or design something different than what was proposed, that would come back to us?
Yes, you can add that type of language.
And that's our understanding as well. If we don't develop what's in the purchase sale agreement, you don't sell the property. And that's why I get to that point where we are heavily committed to.
I think the commission would like some assurance that in the next few phases, that you show us that with your design drawings and stuff, that they're actually coming back, that they're meeting what you proposed to us.
I agree with the mayor. I agree with Commissioner Lyle Smith. We're approving something very specific. There's no reason not to put that language in there. I agree with you.
Is there approval by the maker of the motion and the second?
Yes, there is. I don't know how quite to phrase it, but I understand it is.
Bill's shaking his head. I don't know if that's good or bad. Is that good or bad, Bill? You were shaking your head. I don't know if that was good, yes, or bad.
I was just having a discussion with the city manager that, envision in a scenario where come back with the lease, purchase a building, and in between the purchase and it getting built, the tenant goes bankrupt for some reason, the property's already sold, and we no longer have that. And, the idea of trying to unwind that is tricky. And I think what I discussed with the manager, sorry, I'll try to be close to the microphone, was the idea of maybe we should have that drafted and make sure we have something solid rather than putting something together, afterwards.
fly.
And making sure it meets the Urban Renewal Commission's desires.
So we could approve it contingent upon this additional language?
I think we'd have to see the language.
I mean, my thought is, unless there's some time pressure has to be done now, or the agreement.
The agreement's going to expire.
October 30th, agreement expires.
So you could come back with a revised agreement. My issue is that what the motion that was made is different than what we've said, than what is in the agreement. And so I'm trying to rectify the motion that says, which was in the staff report, that is contingent on something, and that's not actually in the agreement. So either the language needs to be in there, or we need to be really clear about what our motion is. And then at the same time, I was trying to add a little bit more teeth, which is what Commissioner Smith was looking for, around the proposal and a chance to review, a requirement for the developer to return if for some reason the design is not meeting the proposal that was proposed to us. If they have a reason to build something different than what was being proposed. I love the proposal. I hope that it goes through.
Let me pose a question.
Perhaps.
Hang on just a second.
Is the concern that it would not be a build to suit? I've heard comments that a building sitting empty, that would be a spec building, and that's not what we're proposing, Kerry?
What I just added on the contract.
Just don't forget to identify yourself again.
Hi, Kerry Hughes with Willamette Stone, so developer here. Thank you for having us tonight. So in the current contract, one of the contingencies is we have to go through the planning process as well as pull permits. So at that time, we're pretty committed, plans are approved. So I think that's already in the existing contract, as I recall. So I think this would just be an amendment, and all those other provisions about going through the entitlement process, pulling permits remain in there. So at that stage, we're really committed, and we have to pull permits, which means, we're moving forward on the project at that point. So we're not going to close anytime soon. The time to close is pretty far out, just because we have to go through the entitlement permitting process is going to be, 15 to 18 months from our side there. So I just want to make sure that that's clear as far as the contract goes. And then as far as, tenant commitment, as Derek said, the tenant approached us to move forwards. Their whole thing is, can this get done here? If we get approved tonight, yes, it can get done. So the first step for us in commercial space is to get a letter of intent with them and work towards the lease agreement, which takes time. So I just want to make sure everybody understands that, these type of commercial lease agreements don't happen very fast. It takes time. There'll be a lot of negotiation. It'll go in conjunction with the design here at Derek. So, we're happy to work on the language of that. It just understanding it takes a long time to get to a letter of intent with a tenant and then to actually get to a lease. It's a long document, so it's going to take time.
Yeah. Part of it is that not everybody has the copy of the original contract that we started with way back when. So they've only been looking at the amendment. So I was aware that all of that was in there, but I think it should have been made clear of what the other components are that we still would be working with and on.
Fair.
Yes.
Commissioner Lyle Smith is right. We all know business law. Verbal statements do not serve to modify a written agreement. The written agreement is the law. That's what we have to see before us. I thought your choice of words, Commissioner, about this is a building designed to, I believe you said dining, I don't see a problem with putting that in there, regardless of whether this tenant agrees or not, or another tenant agrees. That's what we want added to our downtown. You're prepared to build a building of that type to service that market. That's what we're looking for.
Yeah, and the language, that's what it says. It's in there.
Right.
Yeah, that was our language that we put into the.
Okay.
Right.
So the only thing that's missing is the clause, or we need to rectify between the motion that says it's contingent on a lease agreement. There's nothing in here in the amendment that says there's a contingent upon a lease agreement. So
I thought it was in the main body of the contract, the original contract that said we had to have a lease.
As resident. Yeah, original was residential, so with the change here.
Okay.
So I think it's, we just would need to figure out what's a reasonable time frame to deliver that within. But I think that's fine with
Okay,
us.
well, it looks like, yeah, it looks like,
So it's prior to, at closing or at submission of permits, I think, we just need to see the language, and be reasonable there.
yeah. Okay, so we have a motion and a second, and I think it needs to be slightly amended to say that it's subject to us re-reviewing this additional language, just so that they have some assurance that we are moving ahead with this if it's approved, obviously. So,
I don't think there's a
have we
point in
got all
doing the
that,
vote.
or did that make any sense? That's okay if it didn't.
We can't hear you, Jacob.
To
So-
make sure that the record's clear.
Right, so the motion
Restate the
was
motion.
to approve the third amendment to the purchase and sale agreement, and then we've had a friendly amendment by Mayor Lyle Smith to add in language that specifies, repeat what you said again, sorry. I've got notes here.
It's contingent upon a signed lease agreement.
Right,
What, I think it was in, that was what was in Commissioner Neely's original
Right.
motion.
all right. So that's what we've got, and if we want to review the language again, then you would bring that back, but we're approving it subject to.
I would feel a whole lot more comfortable being able to sit down with the applicants, and I think we both understand what's being said here tonight. I think there's general agreement. I think we need to figure out what that looks like in writing and bring this back. I'm a little nervous about writing this on the fly.
We're not writing it on the fly, we're saying subject to, and you're going to bring it back to us.
Okay.
So the motion is that we're approving it to, subject to. Subject to, that is the apt prepositional phrase, subject to. So we will see that back.
Yeah, the point is, I don't think that becomes a formal amendment to what, motion to what you need.
It will be when we see it the second round, so,
Yeah, so
okay. Got that?
I got,
No, I'm asking Jacob.
okay.
It's in we will have the recording of it.
Okay, all right, so I'm going to call for the roll.
Yeah, just a legal question. It is a legal question because we're having something modified coming back to us, and I'm not sure that this is the appropriate way to do it, is to do this motion at this time. I would suggest, what's the deadline for us?
The 30th.
I would suggest that we have a formal meeting prior to our retreat and have that motion come back to us in a clean form.
Well, that's what the city proposed. Would you please withdraw your motion?
Okay, so this is a motion of intent then.
Yeah, so I think what we're hearing from the commission is direction to bring you back, sort of a tentative, we think this is a good idea, but we want to see this additional piece in there, and at that future meeting, we will approve it, assuming the additional language meets our
Yes,
intent.
that was the direction, that's why I asked for the roll, that was our intent to you, so we need to vote on that.
Okay.
So would you call the roll?
Commissioner Sean Cross.
Yes.
Commissioner Rachel L. Smith.
No, because this isn't proper process. We don't have a proper motion and a second.
Yeah,
This
I
is,
agree with you.
I agree. Did you officially withdraw it?
I'll officially
Because you
withdraw
didn't
it.
officially withdraw it.
No.
Okay, so then the second, he says it doesn't matter. Well, it has to matter, you either are not withdrawing it or you're withdrawing it.
I'll withdraw it.
Okay, so he's withdrawing it.
I agree. I don't feel comfortable with a motion that is, this is what we want. A motion is this is what we do. And so
Well, that was my attempt to take
I
what you said
understand
to do that.
But
And I wanted to give them some assurance that we were going to be supportive of this, either whichever way the vote came down, and then it comes back and we'll review it. So, okay.
That's-
All right, let's move on to the next item. Who's got this one? Mr. Cockle?
Next item.
So are you not going to vote on?
No, we are
We're
not.
not
The
voting.
motion's withdrawn, so you heard what we said. We are supporting the amendment, and they're going to bring it back, and we'll get it done at that time. Sorry, I couldn't get the vote.
Thank you.
we,
If if I may summarize, Chair, I think what we're doing is giving staff direction, work with the applicant, to specifically define what we've discussed tonight in a clean agreement that will incorporate that which was spoken about, and that clean agreement will then be brought before this commission for a vote. We're not voting on something tonight, we're giving staff direction. Is that consistent with what everybody else sees?
That's what I understood, yes.
I was just trying to get a vote on the direction that we were giving them. That was my intent.
Okay, well, I think we've accomplished the direction and clarity.
Let's move on,
to
please.
staff.
Mr. Conkle?
Okay. The next agenda is a project that the commission approved at the beginning of, the latter part of, well, the beginning of August, I believe, in regard to cleaning up the wetlands area owned by the Urban Renewal Commission. And tonight, we have a presentation of that work, since it was completed at the end of August by Jerry Herman, a River of Light.
Can I request that we move this to the next meeting?
You can, but they just brought him up. What time? I can't quite see the clock from here, but I can see what's on my watch.
It's 7 o'clock.
Yep. It says, well, I've got 6:57.
His presentation will take longer than 3 minutes.
Do you have to do a presentation?
Yes, I do, if you have the time.
We
If
do
you don't,
not.
I'd be glad to come back. Next month.
We apparently do not.
Pardon?
We apparently do not.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear.
We do not have time to do your long presentation. That's why I said, do you have to do
Let
it?
me
If
make
it's
it
just
a short-
us,
let me
if it's
make
just
it a short
approving
one.
it, saying thank you, then we can be
Thank you.
done by 7 o'clock.
We were asked to work on 13 acres, and
Gary, we do not have time to get into a long presentation. It's 2 minutes to 7, and we have a 7 o'clock meeting.
then I think I should just postpone it.
That's what Commissioner Lyle Smith
that
was
would
just
help you.
saying. If
Yeah.
you wouldn't mind.
No problem at all. Thank you.
Okay.
By the way, the area we were working on had lots of noise and lots of residents, and they were both people and wildlife. I want you to know that. And
Yeah.
nobody ever approved it for that.
We are
But that's what I want to talk to you when I come back.
Okay, all right.
Thank you.
All right, can I have a motion to approve the minutes of July 7th, July 21st, and August 16th?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Seconded by O'Donnell.
Seconded by Commissioner O'Donnell. Mr. Wiley, can you call the roll?
Commissioner Sean Cross,
Yes?
Commissioner Rachel Lyle Smith,
Here, yes.
Commissioner Adam Marl,
Aye.
Commissioner Doug Neely,
Aye.
Commissioner Rocky Smith. Aye. Commissioner Frank O'Donnell.
Aye.
And Chair Denise McGriff.
Aye.
Motion
So
passes.
the minutes are approved. Thank you so much for that. And thank you for your inspired and enlightened discussion with regard to this. I know this property has been around the bush for many times, and we want to get it right. So thank you for your endurance on that, and we will look forward to seeing the agreement come back. So being said that, the Urban Renewal Commission meeting is adjourned, and we will come back. Would you like 5 minutes, Mayor Lyle Smith?
Sure.
Okay, so we'll be back at
7:05.
7:05.